Welcome, narrators. I am Morris Bankston, and this is the first ever Narratives Per Possession podcast. I'm excited to get this going tonight. Put in some effort to get logos and microphones, get all the nice, fun podcast stuff connected. And I am honored tonight to have for my first guest. I'll do a brief introduction, then bring him on. We are privileged to have Ryan Kaminski of the Swish Theory. He's done a lot of great content there. Since he's been with them, draft analysis, written work, video, the whole nine, does great work there. He's also recently a credentialed media member for the Orlando Magic. So he's providing like real, I mean, say real, but like he is there in the room with, NBA franchise. So like, that's awesome. We're going to get into that. And, without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and bring Ryan up because thank you for being here, Ryan.
Hey, bring it in, narratives. Honored to be here on the premiere episode. Excited to talk some hoops, Morris.
Absolutely. Likewise. I have to say, I love your podcast first and foremost. I do. And like, it's extremely like, it's been an inspiration to me just seeing what you've done. Cause I think you've had like an amazing array of guests already. Some of them like resonate with me. Like when you had Sasha Stefanovic, I'm like, oh, Ryan knows hoops.
We got the real hooper, shooter in the building.
No, because like I'm a Purdue alumni and Sasha means a lot for me. He's also a fellow region rat like me. So you like just the array of guests you've had, the impact and the things that you are bringing to basketball conversation, I think is incredibly important and like just very inspirational. And one anecdote I'll share before we start talking like about the actual hoops is that episode you had with I believe Roshan. I hope I'm remembering his name correctly. It inspired me to write a whole thread about eye test. And it was like just like the things that you are bringing out up to the surface level. It's just incredibly great. So I just want to talk about that, and I want to plug you in Learning Basketball. Great podcast. Everybody should have that in their podcast feed. Amazing podcast. The latest episode I just listened to today with Ryan Miller, brother of NBA champion Mike Miller. That was a great conversation, honestly. It's just like, you just continue to kill it, man. So thank you.
Hey, man, appreciate all the kind words. Way too kind. And I definitely appreciate the idea that trying to have the same goal here, just trying to learn some basketball and kind of like you said, put smart basketball minds that I follow in my feed and put them on kind of their work on display, have them share something they're proud of or something they've been working on, especially as it's fresh, as it's happening, whether it's in the draft cycle or coming off, playoff series, maybe breaking down a playoff game with analysis one day, talking to a coach about X's and O's the next day, talking to a scout about, their scouting process, maybe prospects that stand out the next day. And, whether it's obviously it's a podcast, Learning Basketball podcast, I host it on my Twitter and social media, but it's with Swish Theory. So the goal as well with the Swish team is to just put all these smart minds out there a little bit more. And, whether it's someone covering a team up close to put them on display, just trying to put us in the room with smart basketball minds that are either analyzing the game, covering the team, thinking about the game, front office execs. We were able to talk to Scott Perry a few weeks back before he got hired by the Kings. That was a really cool experience, getting to pick his brain for his front office thinking and how he kind of his experience, what goes into building a team that way. And, now he gets the chance to do it again in Sacramento. So that was really cool to see up close. And, shout out everyone you mentioned so far. A lot of great feedback with Roshan Paluri on his, scouting process and the way he thinks. He's with Mexico City now, doing a great job with their scouting and analytics team. Ryan Miller, Sasha Stefanovic, some really exciting, just exciting to talk to basketball people and just pick their brains, because I've been on Twitter for a while following all these, great accounts. And this way we're doing now, we just kind of get to connect a little bit and talk a little more about, their mindset, their perspective, just because at the end of the day, basketball is what I've learned the most is that everyone views a lot of different things differently. They value different things differently, and everyone has a different idea for what works in the NBA and on the court. And, some of it's a little more proven than others. And we just kind of pick up all those differences along the way to continue to learn and build that perspective.
Absolutely, yeah, and again, just picking that up right where you left it. Um, I can't say enough of like how inf- how influential and inspirational what you're doing with learning basketball has been as I get what we're doing here with nearest per possession up and off the ground. And it's the idea is really like it's a tongue-in-cheek title, but like there's thought behind it where I want to help reclaim narratives for basketball in like positive, informative, fun ways. Like narrative has this connotation of just being a default pejorative or some negative thing or some like hidden agenda. And I like you, I view that there's a lot of great basketball minds out there, a lot of great people who are doing great basketball content and storytelling. And this is really, what we do here is geared towards telling great basketball stories and trying to, remind people that the game, it can be told. We can tell stories about the game that aren't like just side tangential things, but we can actually talk about the game in cool, fun ways. So with that, I think that's a good segue into the narratives we want to get in today, which is first of all, you know, past that one, but actually let's get into the story. Breaking news, although I don't consider myself like a newsbreaker per se, but NBA has a habit of being dramatic. And what we could say, get the New York Knicks firing Tom Thibodeau. Tom Thibodeau fired after 5 seasons. And it's like just from what I've seen on the timeline, it's kind of like a mixed bag of reactions to it. I guess what did you find? Like, what was your reaction when you saw this sham suite? Like most of us.
Honestly, I was borderline shocked. Like I was more than surprised. Like I thought the Knicks maybe overachieved last year, but I thought they, achieved pretty much what we expected them to achieve this season. And um, they ranked sixth in point differential this season. They were top 10 in four of the eight four factors. And I thought they lost some of the regular season matchup games with Boston, but then they go and beat Boston in the playoff series. And I'm pulling up a stat right here. Before hiring Tibbs, the Knicks hadn't won 41 games in 8 years. They hadn't had a 500 team in 8 years since 2013. Since hiring Tibbs, Knicks have won 41 games, down 500 in four of his five seasons. And they've had 250 win seasons. They've won three playoff series. They've had an Eastern Conference Finals appearance, and I would say last year they overachieved with a supporting cast of like good, high effort, high energy defensive role players around Brunson, and they threw this super team, maybe not quite a super team, but to me a lot of talent, like multiple stars, defensive stars, big wings, and Ananobi and Mikal Bridges and Towns down low, and spreading the floor from three. And I thought 51 win season and an Eastern Conference Finals appearance is pretty much a good achievement for any team, let alone a team that's thrown together like just this past summer. And similar to Minnesota, who we might hit on a little later as some of the like fun stories of the season, like they both, I thought, saw relatively immediate success. Karl Anthony Towns had one of his best career scoring and shooting seasons, and it didn't even feel like they really maximized him as like a pick and pop threat and all the ways he could be a shooter and scorer. So I was surprised because I thought they were on a good trajectory. I thought they slightly overachieved last year and relatively like achieved what I kind of would have expected. Like if anything, slightly overachieved to me this year, even though um, maybe expectations were championship or bust with this roster. Maybe it is common that messages for coaches kind of get old after like 5 seasons, and it's been 5 seasons. Maybe that just wears down on some of the guys. Maybe he's just kind of the figurehead that has to fall on the sword for what I guess is a disappointment in house, because you look at the playoff series as well. They pretty much were in a rock fight with everyone. They barely scraped by on both of the first series. They only outscored Detroit by 8 points over the 4-2 series. They only outscored Boston by 3 points in the 4-2 series. And they were in the Pacers series, surprisingly, actually, only lost by 11 total points over that 6 game series. So, other than making and winning the finals, like I don't know how they really could have had more success this season, obviously as a team. And I thought it was a pretty good run. Like I was expecting relatively championship or bust, but being the first season together, that's pretty tough to do for a contender. And I think you get maybe more of an offensive coach, I guess, to unlock some of these guys offensively. But I thought they had something of an identity, and ranking fifth in offense with this group showed that they had figured out some things, even if it might not aesthetically look the way the front office wanted to. But I was definitely pretty shocked. How about you?
Yeah, I would have to say I've been marinating on it since the news broke, and I probably do lean a bit towards shocked. And coincidentally, I actually live here in New York City. So it's like slightly shocked. I won't say like completely shocked because I mean you just can't rule out anything like that in this city. It's high stakes every single day for all the sports teams here, but especially like good, like relevant Knicks team. I I get it to a degree, but I'm with you. I just think I don't know what else the Knicks could have done other than win the NBA championship to really deliver on all those roster transactions that took place in the offseason. And they turned out to be the right kind of moves that you wanted. I thought in particular, just thinking about just what I saw visually from the Knicks in that Eastern Conference Finals. Um, Towns had like some seesaw moments, but I think you have to commend him on his willingness to really step up to the gravity of the moment and the way he performed in that series. Just being willing to be clutch when he needed to be. I like that he was more downhill than people give him credit for. Quite frankly, I thought like he did a lot of work on Miles Turner, and so like you're seeing that evolution happen there. They had a healthy OG Anunoby this year, and I think that was a big difference maker as well. I mean, you go back to last playoffs where like those injuries set them back, and I would have thought like you finally have a healthy OG. He was a monster on the perimeter and playing defense. Like you see the pieces there. If anything, I just thought you would have wished they had some depth just to get them down the stretch because even in Game 6 against the Pacers, I didn't necessarily think that the Pacers were playing like guaranteed. Yeah, let's get ready to celebrate the champ. Like the first half of that Game 6, like I was a bit iffy about the Pacers honestly, but then Pascal Siakam turned it on the second half. So I just don't know what they expect, and I suppose like I should also fess up to like just my history with Tom Thibodeau. Be careful what you wish for. If like you think, oh, let's fire Tom Thibodeau because I've seen it as a Bulls fan. Like you better have the right coach lined up now. So because like a team with talent and you get rid of Tibbs, from what we've seen from history, the talent doesn't necessarily survive after Tibbs.
Right. And the Towns question is interesting too because there was questionable on one hand, it was hard to keep him on the floor defensively at times. On the other hand, he was like the Knicks' best scoring option at times and like their only reliable, shooter scorer. He saved them that one game. Was it a 20-point fourth quarter? I mean, that like
Yeah.
he came up huge, and it at times it's like they're not running enough pick and pops and enough like floor spacing stuff the way maybe like Will Hardy runs for Laurie Markkanen in Utah to set him up as like an off-ball shooter. Maybe they need even more of that. But the team, I feel like the team offensive rating and the wins kind of speak for itself. And maybe they were a maximized regular season team, and some of the issues with a Brunson and a Towns defensively in the playoffs came to hurt them a little bit. But even Brunson, I thought the Pacers were doing a lot to just pressure him. And we talked a little bit on the Learning Basketball podcast as well about that, where they were just sending pressure with Brandon Benson, where they were just pressuring him at any moment, and Brunson was doing all he could. The Knicks were doing everything just to try to create an inch of space for him with high screens at the top of the like right past half court in the backcourt because of full court pressure. Like the Pacers were sending pressure with Aaron Naismith and just full court, trying to make it as hard as possible for Brunson, where the Knicks couldn't even get into their offense until 14 seconds left a lot of the time. So, that's just kind of where the shortcomings were that they never found an answer for in the playoffs. And I think that is the next step, is finding a little offensive juice where you can create a little more advantage without needing, two screens just to like get into the offense halfway through the possession. And, Towns is kind of the big question mark for me, more so than Tibbs for this past team. So I think, we'll see if they stick with this same group, bring in another coach. I would expect, an offensive minded, maybe veteran type coach, but we'll see what the Knicks do. I've liked a lot of their moves, and I liked what, Scott Perry did to put them in position as well to make all these moves since the change. He was the one that hired Tibbs and brought in Brunson, brought in Hart, brought in Imrob, and the new front office kind of put the finishing touches on this year's team, flipping it over, bringing in these stars around them. So will they flip something again? They've also kind of been rumored as a Towns destination for a long time because of the people in charge now. So that, I don't know if that relationship's over in year one. Maybe moving on from Tibbs is that answer, that they're gonna try one more run here. Maybe you move a Josh Hart or something as the energy guy off the bench, and find a new coach. We'll see. They seem to be one like offensive juice piece away, but which is crazy to say when they arguably have three all-stars and an all defensive guy on the team.
Yeah. But I mean, the offensive juice part is important because I feel like there's a parallel to be drawn. Just the thing that just pops into my head, I think about like, like a Philadelphia 76ers or like the Nuggets this year. When like who steps up in a non-Joker 7 minutes or non-Embiid 7 minutes for those rosters, those continue to be persistent challenges for them. And to some degree, I imagine that's now that the Knicks have really leveled up to like a fully formed identity of who they are at this point. Yeah, I think that's potentially the missing piece there that scheme and coach may not solve. Like you just need to get that. Somebody has to be able to carry offensive load when Brunson's down on the floor.
Right. Just finding someone to operate some offense, create a little bit. And, when they went to Towns, that was the answer at times, but it just seemed to get a little stagnant without Brunson there. So we'll see what the next coach has in mind for this offense.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Well, yeah, interesting news, and certainly a new storyline that I don't think a lot of us were expecting with this playoffs. But just pivoting into a topic that's this is something actually we write a newsletter here, weekly newsletter, narratives per possession, and the first newsletter we published Monday, and it really was aimed at celebrating some storylines that from our perspective is interesting. And I wanted to pose sort of that kind of topic and question you, from what you've seen across all these different playoff series, what are some of the storylines that you've found to be like cool or interesting, or even the stories that we should be talking about these stories more than perhaps the common media is right now?
Sure. I mean, in the playoffs alone, I think Tyrese Halliburton's Pacers, his kind of superstar moments, his game winning shot where he was spinning on a drive into the step back, and I think it was round two. Like, he's had some big moments, some big games. He keeps showing up. He had that huge box score performance. I forget. I think it was a 30-point triple double or something just the other day. I think he's got to be kind of the story of the playoffs, this underdog, the Pacers team that is seen as an underdog because of their seed, but really when you look at it, they have been just about as successful as any of these great story teams since the turn of the year. They have the same win percentage essentially since the Cavs, since January 1st. And the Cavs would be the other like fun story team if it wasn't for all the injuries this playoffs. I would say the story of this season is the Cavs and the Thunder, and the Celtics maintaining their great season, and Jokic's all-time regular season, along with Shea for that MVP race. That's kind of the regular season. But then the Pacers and the Thunder, especially this playoffs, have been just leaps and bounds. It feels like better than everybody else, and we just gotta give them a shout. The Pacers playing with this pace and having success doing it is what's been most incredible to me this playoff run, because you just never see playoff teams play with this level of pace and find success. Normally it's a half court battle, but they've found this perfect combination, and the Thunder have too, of forcing turnovers, playing with pace off of those turnovers, and being able to sustain that identity in the playoffs. And that's been the real incredible part. And I think with this finals matchup, which we'll dive into, I'm sure, a little bit, um, I think that, like, it will either team slow down on that end is a big storyline, and then just who can execute in the half court. Will it be Siakam in the post doing his spin move thing? Will it be Halliburton running pick and rolls? Will it be and double drag and kind of setting up Miles Turner for pick and pop threes and Siakam rolling, and that's been effective for them, versus the Thunder have been fine just doing pick and roll and letting Shea kind of go and cook. And the question to me for them will be if what the Thunder will do when Shea is contained a little bit. That's really the only question mark I have for them, is in the half court offense. Who second and third option, will Jalen Williams or Chet kind of step up as more of a scorer creator type? And then with the Pacers, I mean, they're just on a roll. So I'm really excited to kind of see what burns out first here, between the Pacers and the Thunder, because they have just been absolutely incredible this whole run.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And yeah, actually, I mean, I think that's a good segue into just starting to preview this final series we have in front of us. I think it's amazing. I am. It's going to be a point, like the thing that's top of mind for me when we finally get to game one. The thing I'm excited about is just seeing, and I wrote about this in the newsletter, a weekly newsletter this week. Seeing that clash between that Pacers transition game and the Thunder's perimeter defense. Like it feel like it's going to be two freight trains colliding, and it's just like which one's going to give? Because just seeing like the relentless attack of the Pacers in the Eastern Conference Final, to be able to score at will in transition off made baskets is pretty like insane. And equally insane, we know, is going to be the Thunder, like where there's some mixture of Dort, Caruso, Case and Wallace, like the level of disruption and chaos that they create at pickup points, and as soon as the ball crosses half court, like I just feel like we're going to see we're going to see chaos like we've never seen before in a basketball series, and that's what I'm excited about for sure. The thing that also comes to mind, I'd be curious about your thoughts on this. The thing that I had to remember, since OKC's had that break for so long, is what vulnerabilities, if any, the Pacers defense can create for the Thunder. Because the first round, Thunder made short work of the Grizzlies, but I felt like there was some film that the Nuggets were able to sort of expose about the Thunder, at least, and especially when they start throwing those zone looks at them. And I tried to look around and see if there's anything that the Pacers have done as far as zone. It doesn't seem like that's in their wheelhouse, but I am curious if they do push that button at some point in the series.
Yeah, how the Pacers defense responds, I think, is the biggest probably outlier between everything, because they are very even, especially in the playoffs so far. It's kind of a small sample size. They've only played 16 games apiece. It's a very small sample size, but they both ranked top four overall of all the teams. They both ranked second and third offensively so far. Oklahoma City's had the best defense, but the Pacers have only had the 10th best defense over the course of just the playoffs. However, the Pacers are forcing the 8th most turnovers, and that's kind of still their bread and butter, scoring off those turnovers, scoring with pace. And I again think while the Thunder have been the best team on defense and at forcing turnovers, and second best at shooting efficiency on defense. So, and the Pacers are 7th at shooting efficiency on defense. So they're both top 10 in those four factors on the defensive side of the ball. But that's kind of the biggest difference. They've both been two of the best four teams in basically every category, except for just the Pacers dragging a little bit on defense. So, will they throw different coverages at Shea? I'd expect, Naismith, if he's good to go, he'll probably be thrown at Shea again, probably more full court pressure. And similar to the Brunson defense, with the Knicks, what was successful there was full court pressure, making the Thunder have to stretch, waste time, bringing the ball up the floor, and forcing the Thunder, in my opinion, they will, pressure Shea just like they did Brunson, force someone else on the Thunder to beat them. Maybe they just throw a bunch of different pick and roll defensive coverages at them to just keep things fresh, keep things mixed up so that they don't know what's coming every time. And I would kind of expect that to be the strategy is make everyone else beat you, contain Shea, and try not to let them get out on the fast break. Try to limit. I'm sure both teams are trying to limit the opposing fast breaks and try to be as safe with the ball as possible because they both know the other one is looking to fly down the court pretty much no matter what happens. That's what, especially the Pacers, like even off makes, they're looking to run the entire identity. Carlisle's identity that he's built, Halliburton, his play style is contagious with that as well. So that's what I would be looking out for most is which team can kind of contain those turnovers and limit the transition points for the other team.
Yep. Yeah, completely agree. Here's the thought I wanted to bounce off of you as well. So on the flip side, yeah, I think you know the other point guard in this matchup besides Shea, right, is Halliburton. And what what do you I guess it's two part of what do you ex- what do you expect Halliburton like? What would you expect from Halliburton in terms of like how he would go about attacking the Thunder's defense? Plus, um, does he need to be willing to be more of I guess a does he need to carry a heavier scoring load than he did in the Eastern Conference Final? And I say that somewhat because like he did have some cold shooting, but at the same time, like it just seems like there may come a time because of how intense the Thunder's defense is. I just wonder, like, does he have to come up with a counterpunch of like knowing when he has to just go get his shot?
Yeah, they're absolutely going to need Tyrese Halliburton to be a superstar, and he has been most of these playoffs. And you're right that the way he plays, I think it does involve a little bit of a volatile three ball where if he's hitting it, he's closer to 30, and if he's not, he might be in the teens scoring wise. But Siakam has also been extremely consistent and reliable, almost more so as in terms of just the reliability of what you're getting every night from his production. So I think they're going to need both. Obviously, like I think the Thunder should be the clear favorite. Like they have a little bit I would say slightly more experience, but Pacers are also coming off a late run from last year as well. But really, it's the defense and the depth is just a little bit more impactful and overwhelming on the Thunder side. They have the MVP. They have an all-time great defense. I think the Thunder have earned the right to be the favorite, and that means the Pacers will have to kind of continue this something of an underdog story, Cinderella run type story. It's kind of cool that we're getting these two first time finals appearance teams at once. It's a little different because most fans would like just prefer to see the known brand. Like we want to see the one of these new teams take down like the Goliath, like Steph or LeBron or Jokic on the big stage. But it's kind of cool to see two first time finalists. It reminds me of '09 Magic fan. We almost had Dwight and Melo in the finals, both of them getting their first time finals. Everyone wanted LeBron and Kobe with the puppets, the Nike puppets in '09, but the Magic showed them what's up, and it would have been cool to get to some new star is about to become an all-time basketball legend, like the best player on a championship team with all-time moments, like they're about to be remembered in a certain way differently than others. Even if it's a one-year run, that just stamps like Dirk Nowitzki as an all-time great compared to others that are similarly great but didn't get that ring on their belt. So that's what makes this matchup exciting to me is it's new, but they're stars. They both play incredible pace, exciting styles, and we kind of know in advance that the Thunder are a little bit more built for this moment. Can the Pacers kind of catch fire and outscore them? Because it's definitely possible with the pace and just the style, the play style, the shooting, the volatility of all that, and the creativity of Rick Carlisle and his coaching staff being able to adjust and create problems and answer problems, answer questions on the fly and create counters. We'll see if the Thunder kind of stick with that. Like that could end up being a slight advantage for the Pacers as well as the series goes on. Will they solve more problems than the other team? But Halliburton, we saw him run pick and rolls and double drags type, double screen type sets where you have two screeners on one side of the ball, or horn sets where you have one screener on each side of the ball, and it's really effective for the Pacers because you have one of the only actual teams in the league who can have two bigs that can pop out for three and roll to the rim for a post up or a hard roll between Miles Turner and Pascal Siakam. And it's a lot rarer than people realize. So you have those two popping or rolling, both threatening both at once. You have Halliburton threatening the pull up three. You have to go over on that. It can be hard to guard just that set alone. So, and obviously they run a whole mess of different stuff. But I do think the Halliburton's going to have to be a superstar. I think Siakam's going to show up and like be like, if the Pacers win, he'll have as much of a chance for the MVP award as Halliburton. He actually won the Eastern Conference Finals award, as you're alluding to earlier, with the lack of Halliburton scoring. Like, how Tyrese had this all-time game, but then the averages weren't quite there. He was more of a point guard, while Siakam was a play finisher, and that tandem is just perfectly in sync. They very complementary, like quarterback and receiver going long almost every play. Like they gonna need both, but they've ridden that horse to the finish line. So let's see if they do it.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I'm curious. Like, what did you like in terms of the voters, like for the Eastern Conference MVP? Like, how would you vote it?
I thought that was fair. Like I think they were both definitely deserving. I mean, I think I will personally remember Halliburton's performance a little bit more from that series, if that's how I'm gonna vote. Like that one box score he had, I'll pull it up here. He had 32, 15, 12, like a 15 assist to 0 turnover ratio. He had 5 threes. Like, that game is the one I'm gonna remember from the series. So I would have been okay giving Halliburton the nod for that. But he didn't quite. He had an 8-point game stinker. He had 14 points in one game, and had a few games that just had more turnovers as well. While Siakam was consistent. So, like, I'm totally cool with Siakam getting his nod, especially because of just maybe the lack of recognition he gets around the league for how good and consistent and reliable he's been, going back to being arguably the second or third, definitely at least third best player on those Raptor championship team with Kawhi and Lowry back then, arguably second best, if not. So, he's a special talent. So it's cool at any time really either of them kind of get recognized, given the markets and kind of lack of recognition that they generally get talked about anyway. So I'm okay with it, I think.
Yeah, and I think both. Yeah, I don't think there would be a controversy at all for either one of them winning MVP, because there's cases to be made for both of them in that series. I probably do lean a little more towards Siakam because of like that consistency factor, and just maybe this might be viewed controversial, but I found Siakam to be, why was he consistent? Because he was finding himself in positions to really be a 3-level scorer, game to game throughout that entire series. He's able to knock down threes, but I frankly thought he was the only one that was like he was the only capable finisher at the rim that I trusted, to be honest, throughout that series, because there are times where like guys are just smoking layups right at the rim, and it's like, Siakam, if he's going to the rim, he's either finishing or he's getting the foul. So he had that. Like, you wish he was actually a little more effective in converting his free throws, but at least he's getting to the rim. He's going to he's going to get to the line, and you get some benefits from that. And then also just the ability to hit the tough twos. Not to be hooper peeled about him, but it's like you do need some of that in the playoffs. And like there was just some of those buckets that were just incredibly invaluable to keep the Pacers in the game and keep them just to keep that momentum moving forward. Almost like sometimes in football, like you need that 3-yard gain just to like keep moving the stick. So like to me, I think that's a fair case for Siakam getting that MVP award, because like he just was doing a lot of glue work in a lot of ways to just like get the Pacers to the moment where they were able to ice the series.
Yeah, all great points, especially with like the mid-range scoring. Like everything Siakam does is bringing winning impact, especially in the playoff level. Like none of it fades once the playoffs come around. If anything, all of it becomes more valuable. The mid-range scoring that you mentioned, like he's elite at that, so that means it's actually a good scoring option for his team.
Yeah.
Whereas it's an average player taking a tough shot would not be. He's one of the stars, specialists, and he's elite at it, and he's underrated because almost in the way Franz Wagner is in Orlando a little bit because he's an elite two-way either big wing or small big. He's bringing elite impact on both ends of the floor consistently in the regular season. 91st percentile offense and defense via EPM. 3.3 overall, 90, which is 94th percentile, tied with Zion Williamson and Amen Thompson and Chet Holmgren. And Tyrese Halliburton is mostly offense. He's bringing +5 offensive impact, 99th percentile, best in the league, but only +4 overall. He was a slight negative via EPM on defense. And I think that overall Halliburton's impact is more almost in the way that like a not quite Steph, but like the shooting gravity that a Curry will bring for his team. That kind of gravity, that scoring creation element is the identity of this Pacers team. But Halliburton just fits right in perfectly as like, or Siakam fits in right perfectly with Halliburton as like this unsung hero, play finisher, gonna, as you said, finish at the rim either strongly or with that go-to spin move and soft touch, like especially just running the floor. Like he just matches the pace, the defensive intensity, the half-court play finishing, a secondary offensive option there. He's just match made in heaven between Siakam and Halliburton.
Yeah, it was it that's a trade that's aged incredibly well. And I say that because there was the narratives about that Siakam trade last season. I will fess up to it. Like I wasn't necessarily like I didn't see that being a slam dunk trade per se. Like I need to see more from it, but to Siakam's credit and that whole Pacers organization, they got him in, they got him extended, and the team's able to really gel and pull the chemistry together to go on a run that I don't think anybody really expected out of that team. Certainly at the beginning of the season, I don't think anybody expected that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's been a big win for the Pacers and for the league. And, we've seen that some of these teams that kind of made win now moves to bring in big talent are the ones that were rewarded this year with the playoff run with, the Knicks bring in Towns, the Wolves bring in Randall, the Thunder add Caruso and Isaiah Hartenstein, and Chet's finally healthy. And then, the Pacers bring in Siakam. Like these teams were, rewarded for bringing in star level type players, and is cool to see that kind of shift where teams need depth. They need 9-man rotations of two-way depth and good basketball players throughout. And it's something of a shift from just being a couple stars and a couple minimum role guys. The league's just deeper now than it used to be, and you're not going to be able to get away with that quite as much as the teams with depth now. And one quick shout out to Minnesota as well. I feel like that's the other feel good story that
Oh yeah.
got to at least give a quick shout to of just winning with Julius Randle's playmaking, perfect fit for what they needed. They've done back-to-back trades for big men where I questioned both and didn't like the fit for both, and I was wrong both times. Like they just keep overachieving, this Minnesota team, and I think that was partially why Anthony Edwards saw such a leap in three-point shooting, is getting to play with one of the best three-point assist creators in Julius Randle. Obviously, Ants worked really hard on the pull-up shot as well, so that pull-up development has opened up the floor for him and his incredible downhill athleticism, explosiveness. So all of that is a factor, but that combined with Randall as more of a point forward to kind of bend the defense and open things up for Ant, I think helped him a lot too. And that we saw them make the Final Four, and they went up against a juggernaut in this Thunder team, and it didn't quite work. But I think they're pretty proud of this run, knocking out the known star Goliaths that all the other fans probably wanted to see advance, with the Lakers and Luka, LeBron, and Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler. Even with the Steph injury, LeBron injuries, the injuries are another thing that these are the four teams that just were still healthy and good enough to outlast the other teams as the other teams got a little injured. And that's the playoffs sometimes, like the Cavs, the Celtics, the Warriors, the Lakers, dealing with these huge injuries. to star guys, and there's just not much you can do once they go down. And but all you can do is play who's in front of you, and these teams did. And at the very least, there is no asterisk next to the team still playing or any year, because these injuries happen every year, and you just kind of have to have a good run, and luck fall your way when it comes to that.
Yeah, and the one thing I would just add, the Minnesota Timberwolves over these last 2 or 3 seasons, they really deserve like their organization really deserves recognition for, um, you know, clearly being able to continue to bring in talent, even when it looks like they don't have the means to do it. And I'm extremely happy for the year that Julius Randle had, because I thought that when the news broke out of the whole Randle Cat trade, it like, at least at a national media level, it just felt like everybody was just kind of like just skewering the Timberwolves for their side of the trade, as if like they were going to go into like a play-in tier team or something. And it's like, as much as like I value Cat's shooting and respect it, I don't think that was what got them to the Western Conference Finals last year. It was Anthony Edwards. And it's the unfortunate reality of this apron environment, the CBA. I think the Timberwolves made the correct choice in making sure that they didn't like remove their ability to continue improving that roster, having options to add to that roster for the foreseeable future of Anthony Edwards' career. And it worked out like with tremendous upside, because Randall, perhaps because of all that slander is getting thrown around about him, he went bald. And I feel like it seems like there could have been a reasonable conversation this offseason about, oh, well, what if Randall just decides to opt out and leave, or like maybe like the Wolves need to use that Randall option as expiring next year. Like, I think they have to look at potentially like keeping him now, because you see the chemistry there, and certainly like they hit their bumps in the playoffs, but like they Minnesota's a smart organization in terms of the talent. Actually, one another like story, and it wasn't necessarily like for the whole duration of the last series, but I thought that game that Terrence Shannon Jr. had, that was a pleasant surprise. I mean, just to like basically not play, he went from borderline not in rotation minutes to he just gets, he seizes that opportunity. He gets 13 minutes and then he drops 15 off of the bench. And just the possibility of given his size, right? Good size guard. Like, if the Wolves are able to find a way just to get more minutes on the floor, both Edwards and Shannon Jr., I would be real curious to see how that might open up their offense even more, because that's kind of the thing too. I think with Anthony Edwards' continued evolution is you just don't want him to be sort of like I don't think he's suited per se to be like the Helio kind of creator. Rather, like, you want him really just being in a position where like he is has a straight line and like attack on every possession.
Yeah, you want Ant just exploding to the rim, focusing on one thing, putting the ball in the basket, like attacking the rack. And obviously he has developed as kind of a decision maker, I would say, as well. Improved on that end. But yeah, you want him scoring, shooting, dunking, driving, first and foremost, for sure. You want to unlock that. And yeah, I totally agree. I think shout out Tim Connolly and Matt Lloyd for past few seasons putting this roster together on the fly. They built a Jokic stopper the first time around. They built a team that made the Western Conference Finals the next year. This time around, they saved money in the process with the Towns trade, like you said, and Randall might even be a better fit anyway for the playmaking needs that this team needs. And shout out Randall, because I feel like he's had like just hasn't gotten a fair shake in a while with his rosters. Like, talk about like just bad situations. Like, first he's in the Lakers team with all this young talent. Then he's a part of this like LeBron Anthony Davis trade, the rehaul with all the identity there for the Lakers. So he's moved. He makes the playoffs for the Knicks, and you look at that team that's around him, like Elfrid Payton and Rent, like guys that are not even in the league anymore, and it's that team makes it because of him. He just deals with injuries to his teammates constantly in these playoff runs, and doesn't really get a good like look at how great his team can be with him. So, shout out him. He upped the intensity. Maybe that trade had something to do with his defensive intensity against LeBron and the Lakers in that first series. Like he showed up like I haven't seen him before. But if he's going to defend like that, keep driving, playmaking, have his little off the dribble scoring game, and just a little bounce and good vision. Like that's a real hub that they can use with Anthony Edwards for the foreseeable future, especially the complementary aspect of either them running pick and roll and Randall is short roll playmaking, or just flat out he is the driving force that drives and kicks and runs the offense. And Shannon look good for them. They have Nikhil Alexander Walker and Naz Reid, both free agents, but both winning players that were a big part of their success this year. So I'm sure they want to bring them back, but maybe not because the money aspects is something we might hit on later. They would be interesting targets for the Orlando Magic this offseason. We might hit on that a little bit. But yeah, the shout out Minnesota and um, that group for what they've been able to build, and definitely a fun a story worth celebrating this season.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good segue. Yeah, let's get into your Orlando Magic. So
Okay.
uh probably not the ideal ending to a season. 5-game sort of first round exit with the Boston Celtics. So not the ideal finish. But on the whole, I'll say this from an outsider perspective. I certainly recognize the fact that Orlando, they had the setback with what Suggs was out. He got that season-ending injury, right? And then, in spite of that, still like a very formidable defense in the regular season. So like those are things that stood out to me. And I guess I would frame it like so for people who aren't as closely in the know about the Magic like you are, or like the local Magic fans, like just like high level, just to start, like what were the takeaways from the Orlando Magic season? What do they need to get? Like, what do you think they should be prioritizing in terms of this offseason to, get themselves to ideally another level or another rung up in the Eastern Conference?
Yeah, I mean this season is relatively, let's say, I would say, given the expectations that were put on this team after last year, overachieving a little bit, this season was relatively disappointing in that sense. But sneakily, they almost won just as many games, and they still had the second best defense. And the amount of games missed by their top three players is staggering compared to the season prior. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but they only played 5 games. The Magic did this season with their best three players, Suggs, Franz, and Paulo. The first 5 games of the year, that was it. One of them was injured the rest of the way, the entire year. I think they missed like 100 more games combined than the year before, and yet this team maintained just as much relative success in the regular season, and they still made the playoffs and had a competitive playoff series. Was just a gentleman's sweep, I suppose, but it felt like they were in it and making runs into the third quarters of these games for the most part. Till the Celtics pulled away, they were the better team. They're the defending champs. The Boston's like perfected 5-out basketball and just overwhelming star talent on their roster. So what was important was getting a little experience. That matchup seems like a very key matchup, almost in the way that Minnesota is built to beat the Nuggets. It feels like Orlando has slowly been built to try to beat Boston or match up well with them, be tougher, longer, bigger at every position, and some similarities up and down the roster with play style and fit that the Magic fans have made for a while. But I think if you consider the injuries that Orlando went through, which was more than the average team, you can also look up like a chart of um, like expected wins lost due to injury. They're at the top due to that as well. They lost Mo Wagner, their sixth man of the year type of guy, the best big man scorer in the NBA until he was hurt for the season. They lost him for the season about halfway through as well. So once you can go through all the injuries, every team has them, but they just quite kind of added up for this team. That's the headline to me: is team kind of sidelined by injuries, still execute or still kind of produces just as well as the overachieving team from the year before. So that's one way to kind of see it as a slight positive. Like I think if this team healthy for half the season, they were the 4 seed or 3 seed in the East with the top two defense. They only fell to 7 or 8 because of these injuries. I think if they were healthy, they would have had like a Houston Rockets esque season where you're looking at a top four defense, a top four seed, competitive playoff team, and maybe some half court playoff offense woes that still need to be addressed for both teams over the summer. And there's a lot that can happen here if you want to look into some of the roster movement. I think Orlando, Jeff Weltman came out and said it, like, they're ready to make their swing. They have 2 first round picks this year, 16th and 25th. They have a couple of team options. I don't think they have many expirings. I might be wrong, but they have 11 million in Mo Wagner, 7.5 million Gary Harris, 3.5 million Corey Joseph, 2.2 million Caleb Houston, all of which are team options
Yep.
that I kind of think they might decline all of them, and just for the space. Mo Wagner is still going to be hurt. However, Corey Joseph was a great fit for this team, to believe it or not, to end the year. Like, he was a deserving rotation player, deserving starter with the unit because of how well he fit next to the starters. He might be brought back for just 3.5 mil. And Mo Wagner at 11 million could be kind of a trade piece. Could be obviously his brother's here, and he's a part of the culture. Like, the team loves him, the energy he brings. So I do think he could be back, and maybe brought back on a 1-year team deal because of the injury. He nurses it back and kind of leaves his options open going forward.
Yeah.
So a lot of roster overhaul possibilities this summer.
Yeah. The one thing I noticed too, I happen to be looking at the Magic's multi-year finances on Spot Rack. Currently, Spot Rack's projecting the Orlando Magic to be a first apron team. And, that's interesting, especially when you mentioned the 4 team options that the club has. I guess, do you have any sense of how much the first apron will factor into this offseason? Is when they say they're willing to make big swings, is it like, yeah, we're cool with the first apron big swings, or are they still gonna do some financial maneuvering there to not necessarily live in that penthouse yet?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. I think we should wait to actually see it be done to know if that's how comfortable they are with, in terms of the salary cap, when it comes to, are they willing to go into the apron over the tax for this team. It would make sense if they believe this team can contend and win it all. And it's definitely a factor, obviously. I think Franz and Paulo are on, like, the super maxes, the biggest deals they can get, or they are trajectory that way at the very least. Jalen Suggs took a slight discount for a handful of reasons, and his deal is a little more affordable. It's like 30 million flat instead of
Yeah.
like 45 million in rising. So it's not quite a max deal. So I do think they are in the world where they can find one more player around that range and still make this work with the depth of talent that they have. But we'll see. I do think they're in the trade market for a guard who can hit pull up threes and run some pick and roll. Ideally, a high volume 3-point sniper. Think like Damian Lillard or Trae Young is the ideal version of that. But maybe they're not available. LaMelo Ball, Anthony Simons might be a little more available. Darius Garland, Colin Sexton, Malik Monk, Kobe White, some other names that have been floated around as mostly trade candidates that would just kind of give some juice to this offense. They needed somebody to stretch the floor on the ball, pull 2 on the ball and pick and roll, especially open up the cutting, play finishing lanes for Paulo and Franz. And if they can hit the 3 ball as well off ball, that would be great. So, a little 3-point shooting versatility, some high volume shooting gravity, maybe looking at some free agents. Maybe they could get James Harden on a little less of a discount. He's perfect in theory. You don't know, you're not necessarily getting a ton of playoff help from him, given his experience, but at the very least you're getting a floor general who can hit the 3 on and off the ball and kind of run the offense when in doubt, when everything else kind of gets a little muddy. But I don't. They're not going to have much free agency money, so that any free agent would have to probably be some sort of sign and trade, whether it's Naz Reid or not Nickeil Alexander Walker over in Minnesota, maybe a big, like a DN3 big Miles Turner type. He is a free agent. A Brook Lopez, um, Al Horford, a D'Lo, a CP3, or some point guards as well that can shoot. Fred VanVleet. Just some Malik Beasley. I don't know if they're going to be able to afford any of these guys, but it would have to be sign and trade. So those are some names that I circled this summer where they could be kind of a trade or a free agent, and they have 2 first-round picks to boot. So I don't really expect them to add 2 more rookies to this roster. I mean, they've done it like every year for the past few years. Maybe they will, but like Jeff Weltman went out of his way to say to talk about the direction of this team in a way that he hasn't in a long time, where like they're clearly ready to make some sort of next big move. I don't think Franz and Paulo are untouchable. Obviously Luka got traded, no one truly is, but from what I can tell they are untouchable. Suggs is the next closest thing to untouchable. Anthony Black is probably the next after that. He's right on the borderline because he's probably the most valued by other teams, thinking he's actually available, while Orlando probably wants to trade everything else but him first. If I would assume they would rather give up multiple firsts than trade Suggs or trade AB, because they have all of their firsts and extra ones ready to be dealt. So there's a couple different ways they could go, but if I had to guess, I would think Paulo Franz, Suggs, and Anthony Black are the core of this team that will not be going anywhere anytime soon. And they will try to package a Cole Anthony, a Jonathan Isaac, a KCP, even a Wendell Carter or a Goga Bataze, if any team wants any combination of that, even if it's just salary matching, and then attach first round picks to that, because they have all of their first round picks. They have Tristan Da Silva and Jed Howard, former first round picks. They could also be thrown in as prospects. But I think that's the goal, is find that either a guard or like a pull up three, high volume 3 point shooter, point guard that can play make, run some pick and roll, or a D and three center to kind of round out the lineups around those core four guys. And they could address it in the draft, but I do think they're probably prioritizing. He did say more proven offensive scoring talent is Weltman made it clear in the interview that that is what they're after. So some of those trade candidate names, do not be surprised if Orlando moves one of their first rounders, a couple role players to upgrade the backcourt for a 3 point shooter.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Being a Bulls fan, I've heard the Kobe White rumor as well. I mean, quite frankly, I think Kobe White would check a lot of boxes for the Orlando Magic in that sense. One of the things that I think goes underappreciated about Kobe is that he has grown as a pick and roll ball handler over the last 2 seasons, and there was a time where like Kobe was very much a feast or famine sort of guard, but as he tightened up his handling, he's able to start becoming more consistent and efficient, really, in manipulating defenses inside the 3 point arc and figuring out how snake dribble and all these things. He really has expanded himself in terms of like his offensive creation abilities, to where I I could see the vision there. I can see him giving your Magic that sort of juice. There's a point I wanted to tie back to. Assuming the Magic are able to find some offensive sort of additional firepower there. The number 2 defense, I think that's interesting, and I want to pose this question to you because I feel like defense is always to a degree underappreciated in NBA basketball conversations or misunderstood, right? Because you have some folks who, like, if they have like some legacy view of NBA basketball back before back when it's still like the illegal defense rules and things like that, they still just view like, oh, the only way to play defense is straight up man to man. Everybody plays man. You don't do anything other than that. There's a lot of nuance in defense today, and I would just be curious, like, from your perspective, when you say that, and I'm just asking this for the benefit of people who, again, may not have watched a lot of Orlando Magic basketball this season. What's the secret sauce? What's the recipe behind that number 2 rated defense? What were they doing to put themselves in a position to be that efficient with their defense?
That's a good question. I would say it's definitely starts with Coach Mosley, his mentality, his entire culture he's built since day one has been hustle and all around hustle. So that's first and foremost, is definitely the coach, and then also the personnel. I would actually think they are one of the teams that does try to stick with youth, that does try to play man and run through screens. I'd say the biggest advantage they have is their point of attack defense with Jalen Suggs when he's healthy. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Anthony Black, 3 elite guard defenders that can guard your opposing team's backcourt. Black AB can even guard some threes. Suggs can guard some threes, and they can guard up a little bit on the wing. But those that point of attack defense is the first part of it, and elite rebounding is also a reason that they rank so highly on defensive rating. Goga Batadze, um, and also shot blocking, rim protection is the other one. Jonathan Isaac, Goga Batadze, even Wendell Carter. These are 3 elite rim protectors, and I didn't even mention Franz Wagner, who's one of the elite 2-way wings in the league. He is elite on both ends as well, where he is a high end big wing defender. So they have other depth of plus defenders with a Gary Harris off the bench. Paulo can hold his own in some matchups, though he's definitely more kind of offensive focused. But he's passable with his size down there normally. But Franz has the edge on the defensive side of the floor there. And they force a lot of turnovers because of the point of attack defense, chasing screens. KCP, Suggs, AB, a lot of deflections, a lot of steals, and then they run them into the drop defender or the big man down low. Goga Batadze, Jonathan Isaac protecting the rim, a lot of blocks. So they rank highly forcing turnovers. They rank highly grabbing defensive rebounds, and they really just play straight up. I mean, they'll throw a zone in there to mix it up, but kind of like Boston does too. They either switch everything or try to just kind of don't just try to run through screens and kind of hold their own as long as they can and kind of switch as a last resort. I think they pride themselves on like that screen navigation between Orlando's key perimeter defenders, and again, it's all because of the identity Jamal Mosley has helped build since day one. This team is the most competitive Magic team I've probably ever seen in terms of never giving up, always having that will, that fire, that even if they're down 20 or 30, they're not out of it. They're gonna grind back in this game by forcing stops, forcing turnovers, playing fast, and hitting threes. And Jalen Suggs and Goga Batadze, I think, are like the anchors of that for this season. Even though Goga kind of fell off about halfway through the year, whether it was due to injuries or whatnot, he was ranked super highly in defensive EPM most of the year when he was the starter. So I think those were kind of the cornerstones, bookending the lineup for the defense. And then Isaac was able to play a lot. Franz was able to play a good amount. And KCP had an off season as a shooter, but he was vital as a starter, keeping this team defense afloat through all these injuries. He was very consistent, and AB off the bench as well.
Yeah, I mean, so in that regard, it sounds like the recipe really is just it's fundamental defense in the sense of your perimeter. Guys are fighting to stay in front of the ball, fight through the screens.
And let me add, they deterred the most 3-pointers in the league. So their goal was to limit opposing 3-point shots, probably as a counter thought, because they also probably know they're not going to hit many 3-point shots. So maybe they want to limit opposing team 3-point attempts because just to try to even that out a little bit. Maybe
keep the differential like level.
Yeah, that was definitely a goal, and that I think they ranked first in as well.
Yeah, well, those are all good things. Yeah, if you can obviously be stout on the perimeter, and then like you mentioned, funnel the ball to good rim protectors, and that's important, right? You need to have. I mean, it takes some of the pressure off the perimeter, right? When you don't have to have all world, all universe perimeter and point of attack defense trying to keep the ball in front, where you can trust a little bit of like, okay, if you beat us, you get some dribble penetration, that's okay, because we have the guys that are going to clean that up at the rim.
Yeah, exactly. And like Suggs too, when he was healthy, he was one of the best shot blocking guards in the league. He was averaging one chase down block every game while he was healthy for a while there. So another source of their rim protection was actually Suggs out of the backcourt. And Cole Anthony makes those energy plays too. He's a guy that's viewed maybe as a negative defender, but as a playmaker on the defensive end, he gets up and will protect the rim too. So they have a little help from their backcourt, uh, adding to that rim protection. I think that the key is like constant pressure, running through screens, fighting through screens, navigating it that way, closing out hard, and then recovering to protect the rim with a help defender sliding over in time. And their rotations are just on point.
Yeah, that's solid. Yeah, again, solid fundamental defense. I'll wrap up and appreciate like just this depth of conversation. Like we've covered so many bases. I would love so I want to wrap up on your whole experience of becoming a credential media member for the Orlando Magic, and really just get your point of view on that for anybody out there who might have the interest of one day being in a position where they could be like credential media for NBA franchise and just have that experience. I would love to just hear like, well, I know you contribute to Swish Theory, but are you credentialed through Swish Theory, or is this your own thing? How you got to that? What's the whole process for like even becoming a credentialed media member? All these different things that I'm sure like a lot of people out there have questions about and are just looking for insight on what that takes.
Sure thing. It's cool to be able to just talk about that experience. I mean, it can be kind of surreal the first couple times doing it. I mean, I've been a Magic fan my whole life and never touched, never sniffed courtside or anything like that. And just getting able to go on the court before the game and kind of see these players warm up and hit, see their routines. And it feels getting being a part of the interview process before and after the game feels like you're a part of NBA 2K My Player Mode or something. Like you're a part of the NBA product in a sense. And that part is definitely just a cool feeling to just be a part of it all. But in terms of advice, like I'm still open to it as well. I'm still learning as well, and trying to, I think, break in and carve out a full-time career myself. So I'm always learning. I definitely don't have it all figured out, but all I've continued to do is just try to work hard and put out good work, and treat people the way you want to be treated, and keep networking and getting to know people around the industry, and just keep showing up and going to as many basketball events, and whether it's scouting or analytics or whatever interests you, just keep showing up, knocking on doors, sending out cold emails, trying to talk to people and reach out. And that's really all you can do. And with Swish Theory, I've been able to put out a great some work with that great team, where I've done a lot of draft work covering grassroots high school scouting. I've been credential media at the MBPA Top 100 camp last year, and the Mount Verde event and IMG Academy in Oak Ridge here in Florida. So hitting some major Florida events, try to scout potential NBA draft prospects like early on in their process, see them in high school and grassroots levels before they hit college, before they hit the draft. That way, paint a little bit more of an evaluation picture of their full development timeline. So I've been doing that the past few years, and covering the Magic. Basically, just was a fan of the team, or am a fan of the team, and started just kind of breaking down film, putting out thoughts, team building thoughts of like what I would want to do, or what I thought with front office team building and scouting, and those kind of thoughts. Just writing about the team, making videos. Sometimes they're on the highlight side, sometimes they're on the film breakdown and analysis side. Just putting out stuff that I thought would other fans would want to see, that I would want to see, just stuff I'm interested in, and write about it, talk about it, think about it, edit videos about it, and just be consistent. Continue putting it out. It doesn't have to be every day, but it does have to be consistent. Putting out high quality work and trying to get the right people to see it. And in terms of the Magic, I just applied. I represent Swish Theory with my credentials, so yeah, I am a they're who I'm repping as the media there, along with my social medias beyond the arc, YouTube, Substack, Twitter, and all that. So I represent them there, and I would say just keep working and keep reaching out to people that you find interesting, that you want to learn from, and you never know. You'd be surprised how many people will take 5 minutes to give you some advice and maybe open up a door and an opportunity. And the entire community is probably even smaller than one might think. Once you actually start showing up to all these events, there people start recognizing faces. So keep showing up, keep putting out good work, keep reaching out to people. It's definitely the advice, and it's just been awesome, just to kind of be more a part of basketball and be in person, be there, and get to kind of celebrate it and enjoy it up close and personal. And lastly, in terms of the interview questions and process itself, that part's just been cool to try to think about the game in different ways and talk to the players in ways that they find interesting. Like I've talked about, my favorite moment easily was my first day doing it, showing up to a Magic Suns game. Franz and Paulo are out, but Jalen Suggs has this huge clutch moment. He runs pick and rolls for the last 6 minutes of the game. He ran more pick and rolls in that last 6 minutes than he averages like every game for the whole season. He hit a bunch of pull up threes, and I got to ask him about his pick and roll development, his 3 point development, and that finally he got to kind of take over in the clutch, something that he's known for. Big shot, Gonzaga guy, has been the main guy his whole life, and now he's like third banana, um, basically third banana, or like trying out a point guard role, and finally got like a real opportunity to close and show off his development on the ball. And he went off, he talked about it for a few minutes, and it was really cool to hear his perspective. So that was definitely the highlight. Just being a part of the process and getting to learn from the people actually doing it, and the people we're fans of and enjoying watching them play all these years. It's cool to kind of pick their brain and hear what they're thinking as they're playing the game and afterwards.
Yeah, that's amazing. And yeah, I just I see it definitely in your social media feed during the season, and I think that's just like, I mean, that's just amazing. It has to be an amazing experience where you're in the room, you're talking to the players, the coaches, uh, have the opportunity to potentially create a soundbite that's going to reverberate around the world, and just yeah, that has to be an amazing experience. So yeah, I think that's cool.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, man. It is definitely cool to like be a part of that process. Like, after the Luca trade, I got to ask Coach Mosley about Luca's work ethic, and obviously, for those that don't know, Coach Jamal Mosley was Luca's like personal player development coach, like his pregame warm up coach in Dallas for years. So, like, if anyone's gonna know about how hard this guy works, it's a guy staying in the gym late at night with the bench players and Luca practicing like 2v2 and all that.
Yeah.
And I think that one is probably in terms of that, probably the clip that blew up the most from like the interview questions with Swish Theory this cycle, this season, because it's just everyone's interested in why the heck Luca got traded, and there is no logical conclusion. So if they're gonna say it's due to his work ethic, why not ask the guy that actually saw it up close and be like, maybe that part's overblown. Maybe they were just looking for an excuse for just whatever reason
Yeah.
they got over there, that it couldn't be logic. So whatever reason they got.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a brilliant question. Um, well, I will
Appreciate it.
give you this platform here, just to plug, all your great work and all the, all the stuff that you have out there floating in the basketball world.
Hey, Morris, I really appreciate it, man. Follow the Learning Basketball podcast. Been really cool to dive into that. We're like 70 episodes in, just started this season and gotten to talk to a bunch of different cool, smart minds around the basketball world. That the whole goal is just to learn something every episode. It could be about coaching, scouting, player, front office, media, just anything to learn a little bit something about the basketball world. That's the goal. You can follow my Substack, YouTube, Twitter, the same handle at Beyond the RK. I put out data analytics, data viz on the NBA at large, on the NBA draft, breaking down players, breaking down scouting from the front office perspective, team building ideas. I cover the Orlando Magic, obviously, and a lot of my articles and work kind of focuses around Orlando Magic centric coverage and work. And obviously, Swish Theory. Check out the site with the team. We do some great work there with the team. We'll probably do a lot of draft stuff coming up here. Working on a little draft something or other for them. So check that out soon on the Swish Theory site. Uh, and yeah, we got the big board dropping soon there, and that's where you can also find kind of my scouting reports and on the grassroots level. So check out Swish Theory and all the at Beyond the RK on all the socials. But I really appreciate it, Morris. It's been a lot of fun just talking hoops here today with you.
Yeah, appreciate it. And for everybody out there, please, if you're watching this video, hope you like and subscribe, leave a comment. It's out there. Also, I will mention we have a lot of content that we're pushing out as well on our Patreon community. So please join the Narratives Per Possession Patreon community, and you will get things like our weekly newsletter, pushing out columns, and then video content like this as well. We'll post out in Patreon as well. So with that, I will go ahead and sign us off. Again, thank you so much, Ryan. Greatly appreciate just being able to have a solid basketball chat with you. And so the last thing before we sign off, I do love your theme, your theme song for your podcast. It lives rent free in my head.
Hey, shout out the homie, Manuel. He one of my best friends, and he's a producer. He makes all my music. Every song and beat you've ever seen on a Beyond the Arc video is produced by Real Manuel Music. So check him out. And yeah, the basketball with
sometimes I'll just be walking around. I just start saying basketball.
It's great. I dig it, man. I appreciate it. That's the goal, something fun and catchy, get people ready to talk hoops.
Absolutely. Well, all right, man. Thank you again. I know I'll be talking to you on the socials on some level or something, and I'd love to have you back as well.
Hey, you know it. Anytime, man. Always fun talking hoops. Happy to share. Can't wait to hear how it comes out.
Yeah. All right, narrators. Until next time.
All right.